When I was a child, I lived with my grandparents on and off. Family members had always talked about how my grandparents' home was haunted. No one ever looked into the history of the house. Over the years I've heard stories about my grandfather getting up in the middle of the night to get a glass of water and walking past people sitting on the stairs. Apparently whenever this happened he would bring his water back to his room and go back to sleep, only to find the full glass sitting on the steps in the morning. My grandmother would tell stories about how she would have coffee with her mother every morning in the kitchen. Of course, that wasn't possible. My great-grandmother had died decades ago in their home country. There were always stories about people being touched and pushed by unseen forces. Over the years this all became so normal to them, obviously, since my grandfather never freaked out about people on his stairs in the night. The upstairs was the worst part. People who went upstairs always mentioned how they felt like they were being watched. My aunt, who would visit with her family every few years, spoke about how one night her and her husband were fooling around in one of the upstairs bedrooms while her kids slept in the room next door. The door was locked, since her kids were young, and she figured that walking in on mommy and daddy getting frisky would be traumatic. While carrying on they could hear the doorknob jiggling. They listened but didn't check on it right away. Whoever was at the door was really trying to get in. After a few minutes it stops. My aunt and her husband felt bad, assuming that it was one of their kids, and got out of bed to check. Problem was, the kids were all asleep. All of them. My grandparents, too. There was no one else in the house that would have been at the door. Multiple times my mother mentioned feeling like she was being held down in her bed. I always chalked that up to sleep paralysis. The reason I am telling this story is because I used to be a skeptic. I say used to be. I had never believed in the supernatural. I had been in the house millions of times. I had never experienced anything there. At least not until one night when I was 12. My mom, my brother, and I were living with my grandparents. My mom was engaged. That particular night was actually the night of her wedding rehearsal. It was also Halloween. I was being a cranky kid, so they decided to bring me home. My stepdad-to-be brought me back and assured me that my grandparents would be home soon. They had gone to pick up my aunt from the airport. I had been left home alone plenty of times. I was laying on my bed watching TV in the dark. All the other lights on the house were off except for a night light out in the hall outside my door. No one was afraid of the dark. We just weren't really fans of falling down the stairs. Anyways, in my room, out of the corner of my eye I can see someone standing in the doorway. I look over at the door and I can see the dark silhouette of someone standing in the door. The problem was that that was all I could see. Just a dark shape of a person. Even in the dark I should have been able to make out some features. The light from the TV should have been enough to see something, but there was nothing. Just a shadow. While staring straight at it I reached out and turned on the lamp on my nightstand. The light came on, illuminating the room. There was no one there. Without looking away I turned the light back off. There was no one there. The strangest thing about the whole situation was that I had never seen or heard anything else in that house. Yes, I always felt weird there. Like I was being watched. My grandmother still lives there. My grandfather passed away a few years ago. There have been new stories about someone holding my grandmother's hand at night or jumping on her bed, but as I said, I haven't experienced anything else. I still feel like I'm being watched, and I still don't go upstairs. This content was provided by AngeloTricarico.com. Subscribe to the channel for more stories.